Hello, 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 and welcome to this episode of the Sanibel Captiva Guide podcast. I'd like to welcome our guest, Greg Bryson.
Hello.
Longtime friend. He's been in the area wearing many different hats.
Yes.
Started off in fish and wildlife.
Yes.
He was a charter captain.
Yes.
He is now a tour operator and expert of the Florida Everglades. So thanks very much for joining us, Greg.
Thank you for calling me an
Man
expert.
of many hats.
It's great to have you here. And this is the funny thing is, Greg and I have known each other probably for 20 years.
Probably, yeah.
And he is my go-to if I've got any wildlife questions or if I've got anything I want to know about boat rulings or if I need to know about wildlife. He's the go-to man. So I'm glad he's finally come on the podcast. It's taken him a little bit of a while to coax him out of his shell, but he's here. So thanks for joining us, Greg.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about you. Your first job as a charter captain. How did you get into that?
Well, I was born in Tampa. My dad was stationed at MacDill Air Force Base in the 70s, so I was born up in there, and I grew up just bass fishing on a lake. I loved it. I was wanting to be my dream was to be a professional fisherman. And then I moved to Fort Myers Beach when I was 21.
What made you move? What brought you down here?
Oh, good question.
Spring break?
No, my stepdad got a job. We lived in the Tampa area, and then he got a job with Whirlpool down here. And I'll never forget all my friends. I said, I'm moving to Fort Myers, and they were like, you're moving to the best fishing in the world, kind of thing. And I'd never even heard of a snook or redfish or anything. I was just a bass fisherman. So I moved down here when I was 21, moved on the beach, got
Do
my
we want to
captain's
ask
license.
how many years ago that was?
I'm 50, so it was,
okay.
yeah. I moved to the beach in 95.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it was a good time. I lived on the beach for 12 years. So, yeah, so I got my captain's license, had a boat, and just started fishing. Then I worked at a restaurant at night, Charlie Brown's, across from the Outrigger. That was an old staple on the beach. I love that place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that place. I still have friends from that time. So
It was like a buffet, wasn't
yeah, they
it?
had a salad bar.
All you can eat?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, they had a salad bar, and they had the best prime rib, and it was probably, honestly, the best job I ever had as far as waiting tables, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is no more.
It's gone.
Outrigger has been wiped off the face.
It's all gone.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
And then in my early 30s, I got engaged, and she told me that I had to get a real job. So I was a fish and wildlife officer. I joined FWC and lived up in Tallahassee, went to the academy. I did that for 10 years, and I loved it. I really did. I enjoyed the job.
How long of training is that to become a fisherman?
It's about 8.5, I think 9 months, because just your basic recruitment, basic police officer license is 5.5 months, and then we do an extended 2.5 months. Because we do wildlife training and stuff like that, and operation of boats and swamp buggies, and so it's a little extensive.
Then after you do that, do you have to pick if you want? You could be on land with Fish and Wildlife.
One of the things I loved about FWC is they give you a lot of what do you want to do. This is back when I was on. If you want to work the water, if you want to work the land, as long as you didn't have anything that your supervisor needed you to do, they gave you a little bit of leeway. For me personally, I like being on the water. I had a boat at Port Sanibel, and I had a boat at Fishtail Marina. So I like to work a lot of manatee patrol stuff. I like to snook poachers. That was my favorite, was working nights, catching snook poachers on Sanibel, Captiva, Blind Pass.
Really? How would you know? Would you see them catch the snook, or how did you just know?
I'd stand 10 feet behind them. They never even know I was
really?
there. Yeah. So, yeah, there's these things that you learn throughout the job, which... and a lot of times people call too, believe it or not. People, when they see a snook violation out there, especially on Sanibel, they'd call dispatch, and then dispatch would call us, and we'd get a description of the individual and approach them. And it's funny because I always joke that I'm going to write a book one day, because I used to keep a daily journal every day of whenever my shift was over, I'd put notes. So I have 10 years worth of notes, and I've already started kind of putting a little book together. And one of the things I used to laugh about is I'd get a detail of the person who I'm going to talk to. They'd say white shirt, black hat, and there's 20 people fishing, and I go straight to you. And that should be an indicator that maybe, and they still wouldn't.
And you'd be in uniform?
Oh, yeah. I'd say, hey, how you doing? Do you have any snook? And then I'd always give them 3 chances to come clean with me. You know, I believe in being fair with people. And after about the 3rd time they lied to me, I'd say, okay, well, what about the snook you got in your white truck over there? And that's when they're you know, all the
Face
blood.
goes-
That's
right.
when they know so.
And the violation is because there's only a season that you can catch snook.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you remember what the season was?
Gosh.
It's always changed every year,
It
isn't
does.
it? So
It changes.
what was right then isn't right today because there's a total moratorium on snook fishing at the moment, isn't there? Well, it opened back up recently, didn't it?
Well, I think because of the red tide, I think they changed some stuff.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't with FWC at that.
And even when you're in season, there's a certain length you can
from
keep
what
as well.
it was 28 to 33 inches with a pinch tail was the measurement back when I was an officer. So, but yeah, it's like I said, I got a lot of stories I could talk.
And what kind of fine would you get for?
That's
Is that a monetary?
it's a misdemeanor court date, so it's up to the judge. It's the judge's discretion.
Really?
But you did what is stuff that you taught me about the FWC that I didn't realise that you do a lot of other stuff as well, like manatee counting and things like that.
Everything.
Which is not actually enforcement based, but.
Yeah,
tell us about some of the other things that you get up to rather than enforcement when you're an FWC guy.
Yeah, so Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, they have 2 areas. They've got law enforcement, and then they have the biology division. So the biology, they do a lot of that manatee counting stuff. But yeah, they do everything. I mean, even as an officer, we enforced all state laws. We did traffic stops, which was my least favorite. But you know, if you saw something where it was reckless, our GOs, our general orders was to pull somebody over if it was a safety issue. Because It's funny because I worked with this one guy and he loved traffic. That's all he wanted to do.
Is this boat traffic you're talking
No,
about?
car traffic.
Car traffic.
Yeah, he should have been an FHP trooper. And I'll never forget because at one of our squad meetings, my lieutenant was like, "Look at our patch. There's a fish, a bird, and a deer. There's no cars."
No car.
And he said, "If you do one more traffic stop, I'm going to write you up." And I'm not exaggerating. Leaving the meeting, he did a traffic stop.
Oh my!
So, yeah. He ended up working for Charlotte County. Yeah, so
Did he? He left.
He left.
So you can actually get pulled over by Fish and Wildlife?
Yes, I had somebody that I pulled over, and they said, "I'm not in a manatee zone. Why are you pulling me over?" Yep.
Wow, I had no idea.
Oh yeah, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's like I said, I have a lot of good stories in my journals, and I'll eventually put them together. And it's funny because one of the guys I met down in the Everglades, marijuana smuggling was a big thing back in the 70s and 80s down there, and he's seen it all. I mean, and so I've actually got about 10 questions because I want to interview him. And I figured if I'm going to take the time to write a little book, I want to put a little subsection of how the outlaw side of it kind of thing. So
Right. So I got to ask, give us one more story since you have all these stories. Got a favorite? Putting you on the spot.
yeah,
I know.
well, I'm trying to. I can't.
you on
I
the
don't.
spot.
I don't use bad language.
Oh, well, Max, you can bleep out
Well, one
bad
time-
words, can't you?
Well, one time, okay. One time we had to arrest this guy. Somebody called because a boat had hit the dock at Fishtail Marina. And so my partner and I, we were on patrol together, and the owner of the marina called me and said, "Hey, somebody just hit our dock," and gave me a description of the boat. We found him, pulled him over. Everybody was highly intoxicated. Took him back to the dock to look at the damage. Did field sobriety on the operator. He was BUI, signal 1 is what we call it. And so I had to hook him up, put him in handcuffs. But during the whole interaction, his wife wouldn't stop yelling at us. And I said, "Ma'am, I need you to calm down. I need you to kind of I'm dealing with him." Well, as I'm on my way to the jail downtown, I hear over the radio that my partner just arrested the wife.
Oh, no.
And battery on a law enforcement officer. So yeah, as soon as I'm heading to the jail, she's going crazy, and he's trying to calm her down. And there's kids, and I mean there's families in there. She's cursing, and so he went to arrest her. She fought back, so he had to pepper spray her. And so I'm driving down McGregor Boulevard, and I looked over at the man and I said, "Hey man, I got some bad news for you." I said, "Your wife's going to be joining us at the jail. She just got arrested." And he was like, "Yep, she don't know when to shut up." So
He was expecting it. He was totally expecting it. I'm sure you we met several times, and you'd relay your day's activities, and it'd be like quite an entertaining story.
Yeah.
But so you went from there. So you took the FWC, and you were there how long, Greg?
About 10 years.
10 years. And then you started working for a tour company, and then eventually Greg started his own tour company, which is called
Everglades Adventure.
Everglades Adventure. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically what happened was I left the state, and I was just going to go back to fishing and bartending, get my captain's license, and I saw an ad for Everglades Adventure tour guide needed, and I was like, wow, I can do that. What's that? So I reached out to him, and I took a tour down, and I just fell in love that day with the Everglades. I haven't been the same. Something just clicked in my brain, and
so just to give you an idea, the Everglades is what, an hour and a half from here?
from where I pick up.
Yeah. So basically, Greg will pick tourists up, take them down there. They get lunch. They get to an airboat ride. They tour around. Is that right?
Yeah. Basically, what it is, it's about an hour's drive. What I do now is I used to do lunch on full 8-hour days, but with traffic, I have to get back before traffic. So what I encourage my guests to do is bring food. So
Okay.
I say bring a cooler. But yeah, it's about an hour's ride down. I talk about the history of the Everglades, the history of the wildlife down there. Then we get down there, we do about a 35-minute airboat ride. Then we'll do a 30-minute swamp buggy ride. Then we do an alligator show where the guy gets in the cage with the alligator, puts his hand in the gator's mouth. And then after the show, if you want to hold some baby gators, we got some babies for you to hold and take pictures with. And also where I go is an animal sanctuary. They've got otters and crocodiles and turtles. So we take a little bit of time, walk around, look at the animals. And then I also we'll jump back in the van, and I just go a few miles around the corner to Everglades City and give you a little 15, 20-minute tour of the history of the area down there and how the locals live down there and kind of stuff like that. So
Check it out on a map. You see Alligator Alley going across, and then you've got US 41, which was the old road that went from the Tamiami Trail, they used to call it, from Tampa to Miami.
Yes.
And then if you go further south than that, to the last bit of civilization, really, that's where Everglades City is, isn't it?
Yeah, what we do is when I go down, I take Tamiami Trail in, and then I come home Alligator Alley. It's just better for traffic and stuff like that. But yeah, and the Tamiami Trail is a big part of one of the things I talk about, the history of the area down there.
Yeah.
So that road was completed in 1928, and it changed the Everglades, but because they basically dammed it up. But they've learned now, and they've gone back and they've built bridges and tunnels and holes and stuff like that. But yeah, Tamiami Trail, that road changed the history of the state, if not the country.
Do you know how long it took them to?
13 years.
13 years
Yep.
to actually get. And how far? What of a distance? Do you know from?
That's a great question.
Across?
From Miami to Naples, I'm gonna maybe guess 60 miles, maybe.
Really, it took them 13 years.
Yeah, what they would do is because basically what happened was the late 1800s, Tampa and Miami were the two largest cities in South Florida, so they wanted to build a road to open up trade and commerce. Well, the thing about the Everglades is, and this is what I talk about on my tours, is, if I pulled the bus over and you got out and started walking, you would sink because it's thousands of years of decomposing vegetation, so it's very soft. So what they figured out is our bedrock down here is limestone. So what they would do is they would drill into the limestone, drop a stick of dynamite, blow it up. Then they had this huge floating barge, big crane. They would take the limestone and they would pack it, and that's how they built Tamiami Trail. And at one of the Collier State Parks off of Tamiami Trail, they have one of the old.
That's right, they
barges.
do. I was going to say that. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It is cool.
But yeah, it's.
So the Tamiami Trail was if you imagine the north to south Route 66, the Tamiami Trail was US 41, or is US 41,
yes.
and goes all the way from Ohio, all the way down the west coast of Florida, and then cuts across Alligator Alley and ends up in Miami. So I'm not sure. That could be a good trivia question there, Max.
Maybe it is a trivia question.
Maybe it is.
Is Tamiami Trail not I-75?
No,
That's
it's US 41.
They run parallel to each other, but they're about 20 miles apart.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever driven.
Do you know when 75 was built?
That was built in the 60s. I think that was the early 60s because they used the blueprint of Tamiami Trail for Alligator Alley.
Did that take them 12 years as well?
I don't know. Probably not because the technology probably is a little better.
Right.
Interesting.
So when you go down to Everglades City, it's still very much old Florida, isn't it?
That's a good question. Depends who you ask. You ask those guys down there, they're going to tell you.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, because there are, and I love those guys down there. I'm always picking their brains and talking to them. And, I'm sure that they would say it's not like it used to be because you have people that are moving in, from the area. So, But no,
we see it as old time Florida. They probably disagree.
Well, when I moved here 30 years ago, there was nothing on 41 in Estero and Lakes Park and Bonita, and that was just all cow fields, back then. So look at where we've come in 30 years.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So where do you pick up? You pick up in Bonita?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pick up at the Publix parking lot at 3304 Bonita Beach Road Southwest. It's right there on the corner of Bonita Beach Road and 41. So I like to meet there because they have clean restrooms. And then I do encourage my guests to bring a cooler. So if they want to run in and grab food or snacks or drinks, and it's just been, because I used to pick up on the beach, but obviously that's different now. Mm-hmm. But it's a good spot. We get down there pretty quick.
How many people can you take total?
I can hold up to 11 in my van. So yeah, I had 2 vans before Ian. I had a 14 passenger and a 5 passenger. But they both got destroyed because we just live right down the street from y'all. So we got 4 feet of storm surge, and it's been
it's been a process.
It's been a process. I like that word. That's a good word.
And I know one thing that you're always good about is you'll customise the tours for people. And if somebody could fill up a van, you would go and pick them up. Am I correct in saying? So you don't have to meet anywhere.
And that's one of the things I ask them: where are you staying at? Because if it's on the way, I'm more than happy to come pick you up because it's easier for you. And that was one of the things that was nice when I did pick up on the beach was a lot of people didn't have vehicles. They would fly in and they would Uber. And then, when I would talk to them, I'd say, where are you staying? They'd say, I'm a Diamond Head. Okay, I'll pick you up. Really? So that was a nice feature that I used to do. But once again, with season, getting back is tricky. So
right.
I'd always
so how can people book your tour?
They can either call me 239-405-2060, or they can go online. It's www.evergladesadventure.com. So
how long does that tour typically take?
It's about 6 hours.
Is it?
Yeah, we usually, and I always ask people just to be a little early. Because if we get an early start, that kind of puts us ahead of the crowd and the traffic, and it's crazy because sometimes if we just get down there about 5 or 10 minutes early, it flows.
Really?
Yeah. Because I don't like my guests to be standing around. I like to get down there and I like to keep everything moving and keep it going, and sometimes it just flows real good like that, and we'll be home in 5 hours. So. And
I know the ride across, they're not just sitting, you're giving history lessons and.
Well, I'll tell you the nicest compliment that I ever got on TripAdvisor was this guy. He left a review and he said, I learned stuff. He's like, and I'll never forget, we pulled into the parking lot at Publix and I said, I hope everybody had a good day. And, and he was like, man, I learned stuff today. And what he put on TripAdvisor was, I got an hour-long crash course on the Everglades with Greg. And I was like, that's a good way of putting it.
That's awesome.
Because we talk about Burmese pythons, panthers, bears.
Have you actually seen python?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So tell everybody about the python problem that we have in the Everglades.
Yeah, basically the Burmese python is the poster child for an invasive species. They're not from here. They're from the other side of the planet. They're from Southeast Asia. And basically kind of how they got here was back in the 80s, Florida had an exotic pet trade. So you could go to a pet store in Miami and buy one of these snakes. Well, after about 2 years, that snake's going to be about 10 feet. So people didn't want it anymore, and instead of being responsible and finding it at home, they just release it. Well, the problem is the Everglades is the only subtropical jungle in the United States of America, so they're thriving down there. It's just like home to them. The only difference is they have no natural predators down there. Over in Southeast Asia, they have other snakes that eat them. They have jaguars and cougars that eat them. And the Glades, they got nothing. And here's the problem: is the female can reproduce once a year, and she'll have anywhere from 60 to 80 babies. So they're just.
Do they have an estimate now of how many? I'm sure it's hard to.
That's the $1 million question. The general consensus is they believe about 300,000.
Wow.
Because nobody knows. I mean, if you ask a Florida biologist, what's the panther population, what's the deer population, they can give you a guesstimation. When it comes to these snakes, nobody knows.
Right.
And they've pretty much wiped out all the small mammals, haven't they?
You've nailed it. Yeah, they decimated the small mammal population by 85% down there. So yeah, one of the swamp buggy girls down there, she'll tell you, she was born and raised. She's like, 20 years ago, I saw raccoons and rabbits and squirrels and possums, but yeah, you don't see them down there.
And we actually interviewed a lady, go back and check
Amy.
Her name was Amy, and she was a python hunter.
Okay.
And it's crazy what she does. She literally she's hired by the state, I think, too.
Well, I got to shout out to my buddy, Carl. He has a business called C1 Catch One. And that's what he's doing now. He just started up a couple months ago. Carl Nicholson, C1 Catch One Pythons. He's a good dude.
What, and you can go with him and actually catch pythons?
That's what he does, yep.
Wow.
Yeah, you meet him, he goes from 8 to midnight. And you meet him down in the Glades, and yeah, he's awesome. Him and his son are running it. I'm really happy for him. So he's a good dude.
Cool. All right, we'll put a link to his
Yeah,
business in the show notes.
He's awesome. I will tell you my favorite Python story. And once again, this is something I talk about on the way down. But from now until about April, I love this time of year because in the morning, as we're heading in to where we're going, we see a lot of wildlife. Everything is out sunning itself. We see gators. We see snakes. All the birds have migrated down from the north. And one time, I literally just got done talking about how we got to remove these snakes. They're an invasive species. We have to kill them. And about that time, I looked over on the side of the road. We were about 10 minutes away from where I go to the airboats. And sure enough, there was about a 10-foot Burmese python laying there sunning itself. And my guest behind me said, hey, there's one of those snakes. And I said, you saw it too? And he said, yeah. So my instinct was to turn the van around and go run over and kill it.
Yeah.
Well, then I remembered, I'm on an eco tour. Like, I can't be killing animals and stuff like that.
Right, you might get a bad
It's not a
TripAdvisor
good
review.
look.
Yeah. And I remember I had 12 guests that day, and I remember thinking, at least one or two of my guests probably has snakes as a pet or love snakes, and the last thing I want to do is offend somebody and upset them. So,
Right.
But the crazy part of that story is, I was telling one of my snake guys a couple weeks later, and that snake was in the grass, and he said, since that snake was in the grass, even if I turned around and ran over the snake, he wouldn't have even hurt it. His skeletal system would have just flattened out.
Really?
Yep. But if they're in the concrete, it's different because
Right.
even because I started talking to some of the guys down there and about that. And in this time of year when the sun goes down around 7, when they're leaving work, they'll be out on the asphalt sunning themselves.
And that's how they catch most of them, isn't it?
Yeah, or they'll just run them over. What they do is they speed up, hit the brakes, and they call popping them. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, if they're on the concrete, that's what they do. But yeah, because there's a bounty system. If you're a licensed contractor through the state, you can catch these snakes, turn them in. They give you $50 per snake.
That's what this Amy did.
Up to 4 feet, then additional $25 per foot.
Right.
Right.
And she makes products from them, like watch straps and all kinds of cool
Well, there's another
things.
guy down there. He's called Wild Man Pizzas. His name's Dusty Crumb, and he had a show called Guardians of the Glades. I think it was on Discover for a couple of years. But he has a pizza shop down there, and he has 3 forms of payment: cash, credit, or Burmese python. If you bring him a snake, he'll give you a free pizza.
Really?
And then he skins it, and then he makes wallets and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Oh,
Really?
that's cool.
I've
Oh
never
my
met the
gosh.
guy, but some of my buddies down there know him. And I see him, and I wave to him sometimes. And he just kind of looks at me and waves back. So. Super cool guy, though, from what I understand. Everybody loves him down there.
Is there a lot of hunting and stuff still going on
Great
in the
question.
Everglades?
Yeah, mostly ducks. From what I understand, I've never really hunted much. One of the guys down there, he's one of the biggest hunters I've ever met. A lot of turkey hunting, duck hunting, a little bit of deer hunting, from what I understand.
Yeah. Okay. You get deers in the Everglades?
You do.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. They don't get real big. One of the guys who actually does the swamp buggy tours down there, 20 years ago, he took a picture. If you go on Google and you put Everglades deer python, you'll see all these images where these snakes were eating 80 to 90 pound white-tailed deer down there.
Really?
Yeah, and he took pictures of them. He came across one time. He killed it, cut it open. It was a big old deer. He took some pictures, and those pictures started to spread around the country. And that's what kind of brought awareness to this issue 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, he's
Is there a solution though? I can't.
Can't imagine. They're too far entrenched, aren't they?
Here's what I've been told. And once again, I'm not an expert, but what we need is a 3 to 4 day freeze, okay? Because once it gets to below 34 degrees, they just go to sleep and they never wake up again. That's kind of like our iguanas. You know how you hear about the
Yeah,
iguanas
so
falling?
they fall out of the trees.
So basically, what we need, they're saying that we need a 3-day freeze because that'll kill them. But I don't think we're going to have that. You know, we had one here in Fort Myers in 2009. Remember when all the snook died and everything? I don't know if
Yeah.
y'all remember that. But we need something like that down there. They are also doing more burns down there. It's called we don't call them,
Like a control burn?
prescribed burns, what we call them now, because you can't control fires. They changed the terminology.
geez.
Yeah, prescribed burns, because they used to only do it during the wet season, during the summer months. And I've noticed they do it year round now. So I started talking to some locals down there, and one of the beliefs is that maybe this might be another way to
Control the population or
kill these snakes,
right.
burn them out. So I don't know if there's how much truth to that, but I don't know. And it's funny because when I'm down there, I'm always picking everybody's brains. I'm always talking, and how do you think we're going to do this, and what do you think we're going to do this, and depends who you talk to. So, it's funny because they actually have a Burmese python on the property where I go for my airboats that's chipped, and they go and check on it. So what they'll do, from what I understand, talking to these people, is they'll take the males, they'll sterilize them, put a chip in them, and when they all gather up, that means that there's a female there. So U.S. Fish and Wildlife, their main focus now is trying to take the females out because they're the breeders, you know. So,
Right.
so I don't know. That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
But there's also a little bit of controversy of where they came from. There's also a big habitat, wasn't there, in Miami?
Oh, like
a collection of
Serpentarium. It was called a serpentarium.
Yeah,
Right.
and-
Which actually, in a hurricane, is that this
Yep.
is what I've heard.
So here's what happened. And I actually had a guest one time. He was a Burmese python breeder back in the 80s, and he used to sell this place snakes. And he claimed he sold over 5,000 snakes to this place. And when I got down to the Glades, I introduced him to some people, and he started dropping names. And they knew who he was talking about. So that told me he was legit.
Right.
But here's what they say happened was Hurricane Andrew hit in 1992, the Miami area. This building was called a serpentarium, and they believe they had 5,000 of these snakes in that building, and it was just destroyed. So all those snakes were released into the Glades. You talk to some of the locals down there, there's some people that believe every species of snakes lives in the Everglades now because of that. So,
Really? Wow. Oh, so other invasive species.
anacondas, all kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, there's one guy in particular I know down there, and he said he's personally seen an anaconda while he was fishing. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
And are you guaranteed to see alligators?
yeah.
Okay, because Max's girlfriend.
No hesitation. Oh yeah.
Well, so Max's girlfriend is from Ohio, and she still has yet to see an alligator.
Okay.
So
She's been living how long, Max?
She's lived here for, this mic is like really terrible, but she's lived here for 6 months now. It's
And
in
she
April,
still hasn't
so
seen it.
Right,
She
she
doesn't
needs to go
believe
on a
there's. She
tour.
doesn't believe there's any
She
down
has
here.
yet to see an alligator.
in the wild.
Do you give me that mic that's in the thing right there? This one is
Yeah,
messed
so
up,
it
I
sounds
think.
like she needs to go on a tour with you, Greg.
We'll take care of it. But yeah, the only months like June, July, August, that's when it gets so hot. We don't see as many, but yeah, we always see. Even to this day, I've been doing this 6 years, and when I see a wild alligator, I get excited. I love it. They're amazing. They're 65 million year old solar powered dinosaurs is what they are. Yeah.
Is there
Solar powered dinosaur. That's
is
a
there
good
an
one.
age limit to your tour?
I
the
try to
age,
keep
the
it
young?
Under 105.
Yeah, I try to keep it above 5.
Okay.
It just depends. Normally, if I do get a group that calls and they have a younger child, then I just block it off so nobody else can ride, so that it's just their group.
Right.
Because I've had cases where I had a 3-year-old and
I was
I felt
crying.
bad for the other group, so
Gotcha.
I try to kind of keep it like that. So
Right. And can you ride the airboat at 3? Is there?
yeah, at 3, Now some of the guys down there, if it's less than 1 or 2 years old, they will not take a baby,
Right.
even with the ear protection, because their eardrums are still developing.
Yeah.
So you don't want to. Yeah, and I've seen some babies on that thing, and I just thought that's not good. So,
Yeah. How fast do they go?
45 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's
I don't-
top speed for those boats usually.
But they're loud, aren't they?
They're loud. Yep. Depends who you talk to. What? But yeah. What's crazy is you see the old timers back in the 50s and 60s. They didn't have ear protection.
Right.
So to me, it's like a drummer in a rock band. They can't hear after a couple of years. So,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
but no, the airboat's a blast. It's awesome.
And they're using old. A lot of them are old aircraft engines that Lycomings and stuff like
Yep.
that. The big old big pots on them, and
Yeah, and they actually have to get jet fuel for some of them down there.
yeah, avgas. Yeah,
So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. they're
Well, it
neat.
sounds awesome. We want to go, don't we?
Yeah, we keep saying we're going to go on one of your trips. We definitely should.
Yeah. And I'll just come pick y'all up. You don't have to meet me anywhere. So.
Since you live around the
Fantastic.
corner.
That's it. Yeah, it'll be. I always tell people when I do pick you up, you're going to be stuck with me longer. But yeah,
That's a good thing.
because I talk. And what's so funny is when I start my day off, I say, "Good morning, everybody. My name's Greg, and just to let you know, I get paid to talk." And even my friends tell me when I've taken them on tours, they say, "Greg, I've never heard you talk so much in my life." Yeah, once I get behind the wheel, and I love it. I love it. I know.
There's nobody more knowledgeable, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, if you're interested in tours, or all the businesses in this area could use a boost. We've had 3 major hurricanes in the last 2 years, and there's a lot of resorts and people that are not, or a lot of resorts not open at the moment. So if you do need a tour or something to do while you're down here, especially over Thanksgiving or whenever, give Greg a call. And one more time, what's the name of it?
Everglades Adventure.
Everglades Adventure, and he will do a great job for you.
Everglades with an S, Everglades, and then Adventure.
Yeah, just Adventure. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's because it's funny because if you start Googling Everglades Adventure stuff, I mean, it's just you're flooded.
Yeah.
Like even today, I booked a family, and she called because she had a lot of questions, and because the Everglades is all of the south tip of Florida basically. So you've got Lauderdale, Miami, Naples, Fort Myers. I mean Marco. So there's just so many different companies. But what makes mine different is that I actually transport you down there and bring you back. You're not driving yourself. And a lot of folks, they, like I said, it's a compliment when they tell me that they learned something today, and that's awesome. I want them to experience the Everglades and feel what it is, and I want them to bring that experience back home. So.
What are your thoughts about? I don't want to get too controversial here, but the restoration of the Everglades, is that coming back? Do you think is the health coming
It's
back?
headed in the right direction. I'll put it that
Give
way.
everybody just like a snippet of why the Everglades, like
What's the
Okeechobee,
problems?
the damming.
Okay.
Can you give us a little?
Yeah. I'll try to make it short. Basically, they believe that the Everglades is about 6,000 years old. And how it was created, how it was formed, is south of where Disney is today in Orlando, we have what we call a watershed system or an aquifer system. So all this fresh water came bubbling up out of the ground. Well, growing up in Florida, we were always told that it's flat. It's not. From the north to the south, there's a gradual slope. So that water started to flow south. We call the Everglades a river of grass because it's actually the slowest moving river in the world. So that's the way it was for 6,000 years. But what happened, what changed everything, was in 1928, we had a massive hurricane that came through and killed about 2,000 people.
And that's because the Lake Okeechobee, correct?
Yep.
Is that 28 or 26?
No, that was
26
28.
was the first one.
Oh, okay.
28 was the one that killed
Oh,
all
And
the
it
people.
was 1,000.
2,000.
2,000 people.
Out of 4,000. And so what they decided, the Army Corps of Engineers in the mid-30s, they finished construction on an 18-foot high dam / wall around the lake. And what the Army Corps of Engineers did is they declared war on water. They said, we're going to control it, we're going to tame it. So that was their answer, was to build that wall. Well, what that did was that stopped that natural water flow. And that's why we're having the red tide problems that we have now. Because when they discharge that water in the summer, it goes out the St. Lucie Inlet, it comes out the Caloosahatchee right here. Well, that water that's been dumping into Okeechobee for the last 30 years is I don't want to be negative, but it's just a lot of nasty runoff. You've got septic tanks that are
Fertilizer.
fertilizer, chemical.
Nitrates,
We're
yeah.
we're all guilty. I don't
Right.
want to point the finger at one person, but it's the world we live in, and
Agriculture, industry.
everything.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. There's a thing called the Fakahatchee Strand, and they just completed construction on that. That was a 2-year project. And actually, when I'm driving in, it's pretty cool because I can show my guests. I said, this is the kind of things that we want to see right here. This is where they're trying to get that water moving again. And then one of the things, definitely not going to get into politics, but one of the things that our governor did that was really good was he actually destroyed 6 miles of Tamiami Trail and built a bridge so that water can really flow. Because here's what happened. I think in 2018, when we had that really bad red tide, I think a lot of people woke up, they opened their eyes, and they were aware of the water coming out of the lake, and it needs to be a little cleaner.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have to say the organization Captains for Clean Water, and they are big about restoring the Everglades.
Yep. Oh, big time. And I'm sure y'all living here, I'm sure in 18 you could probably smell it,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure when it comes out of the river, y'all are
Yeah,
y'all
if
are
you
right
don't
here.
know, we're on the mouth of the Caloosahatchee. Yeah. So yeah.
So y'all could almost write a book about it too, just what y'all have experienced and seen and smell,
Yeah, for sure.
But I do believe things are heading in the right direction as far as that. I hope they are. And kind of one of the things that people talk about down there too is, this whole project of getting the water restored and fixed. Well, we can probably do that, but with these snakes, the mammals aren't going to come back. So, and what's so funny, when I started doing this 6 years ago, water flow was number one topic to me. Now the snakes are kind of moving
Going
in.
back up there.
I don't know which is to worry about the most. So, but I think we're heading in the right direction. Even when you talk to the locals down there, they'll tell you they like the projection, the way we're heading,
Right.
because they know they're the pulse. They know what's going on down there, and that's why I'm always picking their brain. They are wonderful people. I love them to death. One of the things I do say on my tours is some of these people you're going to meet today, they do look a little rough around the edges. They look like they grew up in a biker bar, but when you get to know them, they're wonderful human beings. On their days off, they go kayaking and they take pictures of butterflies. on their days off, they go pick up trash because they love the Everglades. They want to, restore it and keep it. They're a wonderful group down there. I love them. So.
Yeah. I'm sure you've got quite a relationship with a lot of them down there. As many times as you've been down there.
Yeah, I call them sometimes at night. And we chit chat, and I'm always bugging them, asking them questions and stuff. So yeah, even the guy I see one catch one, he said, "I want you to come on a tour with me, and catch some of these snakes." I said, "Yeah, I will, but I'm staying in the truck because as much as I love alligators, I'm scared of snakes, and they know it. They make fun of me about it." So. Even after Ian, they were very welcome when I finally was up and running again. Because my first trip after Hurricane Ian, it was about 4 months until I got a van. And I told my two guests, I said, it's going to be an emotional day, so just give you a heads up. And we got down there, and these big old, redneck-looking guys were giving me bear hugs and saying, "Greg, we thought you got washed away." And,
oh, that's awesome.
That's
awesome.
It's so funny. I said that one time on a trip, and the mother told her son, she's like, "We don't say rednecks in front of them, though."
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so we normally have a trivia, and
we do have a trivia.
We do have a trivia, and we're going to have a trivia, and then Greg said he might have some questions for us. So what do you think? Should
Double trivia.
Double trivia.
I like
so, okay, let's start with Max's trivia that he's got together, and then from there we'll see if Greg can add a little bit to it.
This is official, Greg. Here's your paddle.
What is this for?
It's for whacking Laurie because she cheats a lot.
Oh, so I'm going to have to write down my answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
True.
All of the above.
All right. One moment. All right, here we go. Trivia.
Wow, long pause.
I had to pull it up. Okay. We talked a lot in this episode. Is this mic sounding? Do I sound
You're
terrible?
better now.
Testing. Okay.
Come a little bit away.
What?
Pull it away from your mouth.
Pull it away?
Yeah,
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. All right. In this episode, we talked a lot about FWC. What does FWC stand for? What is the official title of FWC?
You're trying to nobble me. There's nothing. This pen doesn't work.
This is definitely skewed toward Greg.
No, really? You do surprise me, Laurie.
Really?
Oh, can I
Right,
change
Greg
my
has-
answer?
Right, I want to change mine too.
Dad, you first.
Fish and Wildlife.
Conservation Commission.
What do you
It can't
have,
be.
Dad?
It's got too many bloody words. Look, it's Fish and Wildlife Control. It has to
I
be.
What
have
do you have,
Fish
Mom?
and Wildlife Commission.
Conservation
Okay.
Commission.
Yes.
committee.
CMMIS.
Is it FWCCC?
It is actually, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Yes.
Greg is correct.
right.
It was kind of a trick question because it actually is FFAW.
CC.
And why? So why does everyone just call it the FWC?
I think it's a lot easier.
It was.
Obviously.
Yeah, because even when I was in the academy, they were like, "Okay, it's going to be a mouthful of marbles, but we just call it FWC."
Okay. We talked earlier about snook. Snook are unique because they are born blank, and at around 18 to 20 inches, they turn to blank.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yep. One of the only
I don't know
species that does
which
that.
way. Okay.
I didn't write down the answer, so I hope Greg is right.
Okay.
All right,
oh,
Greg.
Yes.
They start male and they become female.
I got it.
Everyone got it right.
Yeah.
All right, Greg leads 2-1-1.
Wow.
Okay.
I had it female and then I switched it at the last
That is
minute.
so weird. Can you add to how that works?
Honestly, Max, I don't know. It's just one of those things because they're one of the only species that does that. But yeah, they're born males and they become hermaphrodites, I think is what they call it. They become females. And then they start breeding at around 24 inches. Yeah.
That is so bizarre.
But then there's no males to.
Well-
they have to go for the smaller guys.
Well,
Some
and
of
here's
them.
the thing about the snook too. They don't. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but they're a subtropical species. They're not actually native to Florida.
Really?
Yeah, they believe that they came because down in Costa Rica, South America, that's where a lot of snook are. And kind of they believe that they were here before the Ice Age, and then once the Ice Age hit, they got stuck and they couldn't go back. So yeah, that's a little history about the snook. Yeah, they're not native of Florida. Same with
know
that.
that.
Same with the manatee. Yep.
How bizarre.
Really? Where's the manatee originally?
Really?
West Indies.
West Indies. I
How
did
did
know
they
that.
get? That's crazy.
They were here, and then the Ice Age. Something about the Ice Age stuck a lot of subtropic species that couldn't go back home, and they just stayed here.
Kind of like the flamingos that have been around.
Well, once
recently.
again,
Apparently, flamingos are. I read that flamingos are actually native. They just don't live here anymore. Is that right?
I've heard different things. I've heard that basically they were brought here, they lived in zoos, they got out, and then that's when they became kind of associated with Florida.
Right, but then we haven't had any around here for a long time until there was a hurricane. They said that.
And then we've got
bunch of
pictures of migrating flamingos on Bird Island out there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, every now and then we'll see them. This time of year is when we'll start seeing them. When it starts cooling down a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, Max. So it's 2-1-1.
Yep. Last question. I'm turning the mic down because this mic is giving me problems. But the last question. The black bear is the only bear native to Florida, according to the FWC, which stands for FFWCC. How many black bears are there in Florida?
Wow.
Oh my
Great
goodness.
question.
Is this worth
What
3
number-
points?
No,
What are their
nearest gets
names?
1 point.
But then, oh no, we could tie. If we
You
get
can
this
tie if you
right.
want.
I don't know. All right, I'll go first because I have no idea. I put 20,000. Nick, what'd you put?
101,523.
Greg?
I put a lot.
All right, I guess Mom is the winner for that one technically by default. Is 4,050.
Is that what they're
That's
saying?
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like a lot.
No. And I might have to disagree with that. We might have to have a recount on this. But no, it's funny because we had a bear hunt back in 2014, I guess. And they killed 100 bears in 2 days. I don't know if y'all remember it, but it was on the news all the time. And one of the guys down there, one of the buggy drivers, I call him the Bear Whisperer. And we've been talking a lot lately because he can literally look at the berries. And he knows that these berries are supposed to be here till August or September. Well, they're gone in June and July. So that tells him that the bear population is thriving down there. It's doing really
Really?
good. That we actually saw some bears for the first time on the swamp buggy last week. So they'll show up this time of year because it's the dry season. We're going in the dry season now, so they'll show up. And yeah, we're lucky enough. We usually see a bear during the dry season on the swamp buggy tour.
Is there a lot of dry areas of land in the Everglades? Are there areas where they can be on dry land?
Well, it depends on time of year, and that's one of the beautiful things about it and that's some of the things we talk about is the rainy season and the dry season. You see pictures during the rainy season compared to dry season, there'll be a 6-foot fluctuation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So because when it rains every day in the summertime, they get 75% of their annual rainfall down there from May to October.
Right.
So they get a lot of water, and that's what we want. We want the water down there, so.
And there was a bear on Sanibel, wasn't there?
Yes, we chased them around for a couple of weeks.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And then you caught him and then you released him?
Yes, and we still can't figure out. We don't know if he swam over or if he took the causeway over. But yeah, I remember they had all the signs up around the pier. If you see the bear, don't come near it, kind of thing. I got a bear call one time downtown Fort Myers.
Really?
Downtown?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, it was about 10:30 at night. I was on my way home and got a call from dispatch about a bear downtown. I'm like, so they bring out the captive wildlife investigator because he carries a dart that, and you have to have a special kind of license to carry that. It's like almost like a doctor because that's, pretty serious stuff. And I'll never forget, he shot at the bear and he missed. So from that moment on, the bear did not exist. We have to find that dart because that dart could kill somebody.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'll never forget walking
wow.
around with my flashlight, and the bear was running around snorting and growling, and we were like, we got to find that dart.
Did you find it?
Yes. We wouldn't have left without finding it. So.
Wow.
Were you part of the capturing of the bear on Sanibel?
No, I wasn't there part of, but I've been part of other bears.
Right.
And I got to tell you, that was probably my favorite thing of working with Fish and Wildlife was I loved bear calls. You'd get them a lot by the interstate, out by the airport. And basically for me, it was just hide and go seek with a big old puppy dog because you chase them
You're
back up in the
brave.
woods and they'd come and they stick their head around a corner. And so, no, I love them.
What do you do? What is the objective of a bear call? To get them away from humans?
Great question. So here's what we used to do. When I first started with the state, our policy was real simple. If somebody had a bear in their backyard and they called a dispatch center, I could call them and say, hey, what's going on? And they say, I got a bear. I'd say, take a couple of pans, bang them together, yell at the bear. It wants to get away. Well, unfortunately, in 2012, we had 2 what they call bear attacks in Orlando. And I don't like to use that term, but basically somebody left their garage door open. They've got your trash there. Well, bears can smell over a mile away. So those bears were attracted to that trash. They came in. Now the homeowner's coming in, not knowing the bear's there. All of a sudden, they're face to face. And we all know what a cornered wild animal is going to do. So in both cases, the bear kind of scratched the human getting out. So the FWC changed their policy from that day on. After that, we were all issued beanbag shotguns.
Oh, right.
And what they would want us to do is basically, when we got a bear call, we had to show up on scene, and they would want us to shoot the bear in the butt with a beanbag round and yell at it, hey bear, so that way it associates pain with humans. So that's, as far as I know, that's still their policy today. It could have changed. I haven't been with the state for...
And do they scoot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I popped one time, and I didn't like to do that, because if you hit in the head or the neck area, I could kill or injure that bear, and I love them. I don't want to hurt them. But yeah, one time, it was out by a elementary school, and somebody put some Publix fried chicken in a dumpster. And that bear,
And everybody loves
who
Publix
doesn't
fried
love-
chicken.
who doesn't love-
It's so good.
I would have been head down, feet up in that dumpster too.
And a pub sub. Throwing a pub sub too.
And the news was out there, so they had the kids inside the building, and I scared it away, but it kept coming back. But I had to wait for it to get its head down into the, because I didn't want to. Once his butt was all he had, I popped him in the butt, and I always say he's still running today because that probably didn't feel good.
How big are the bean bags?
They can go through wood, so yeah, they hurt.
Oh.
I wouldn't want to get hit by them.
No. That's not part of your training, is it? Like you have to get
We
tased?
did. Oh yeah, we had to get. That was the worst 5 seconds of my life.
What, that you actually had to be shot by a beanbag?
By a taser. No, I had to get tased. Yeah.
Really?
To carry it on you, you have to be exposed to it. Except for the bullets, obviously, but yeah,
Right.
because that way, and this is how this is basically, if I'm fighting with somebody or if I'm hands-on with somebody and they get a hold of my taser or my pepper spray, I've been exposed to it, so I know what it's going to do
So
to
you
me.
can kind of...
So then that's when I got to step up and go to the next level of
Right. But
defending
it's
myself.
bad?
Worst 5 seconds of my life. You can pepper spray me every day for the rest of my life, just don't ever tase me again.
Really?
Yeah, it hurts. It's no fun.
No, it doesn't sound like fun.
So I interrupted you. How long were you in? How long is it since you've been in the FWC?
Let's see. I left in 2016, December of 2016. So
Okay.
was
And
it 8 years?
How long were you in for?
Almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, and I did. I loved it. It's a great agency. They're just it's a lot of stress, and you don't make a lot of money. So you got to do what you got to do. But and I'm still friends with a couple of the guys. I miss the camaraderie of the job. But no, I have nothing bad to say about them. They really are wonderful people. Some of the best people I've ever met.
Well, Greg
Cool.
and I tied, correct?
Is there
did.
more?
No,
That
that's
was it.
That
All
was
right,
it.
ring the bell,
Have you
Greg.
got you got
Okay,
any?
you got to ring the bell
I have a
first.
question.
I have a trivia question.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to ring the bell.
I've
though.
never gotten a trivia question
Okay,
on this
go
show.
on.
There you
This
go.
is my moment.
Okay.
I've
Here you
never-
go, Max.
Hand this to Max. There you go.
Give me a board. Give me a marker.
Right.
I've never gotten to do this before.
All right, here we go.
100
Pass it
episodes
down.
in.
You ready?
We're
Yep.
ready. What's this worth? A trip to the Everglades.
There you go.
Woohoo!
Who invented the airboat?
Oh, jeez.
I got it.
How did you get...
Max, if you get it, you'll be the only person that's ever gotten it. Unless you Googled it.
I did not.
Okay, I'm ready. That's a lot of writing, Nick.
Hold on. I might need to change
It's a
my
big brain
answer.
answer.
Max is... Really?
do you
You're
know
erasing everything?
Do you know the answers to these? No.
Jessica, do you know who? Jessica's from Ohio also, Max. What part of Ohio your girlfriend's from?
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yep.
She's from Lima.
Lima. Mom's from Ohio too.
I am.
Are you?
Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus.
All
All
right.
right.
I'm ready.
Okay, you go first,
Hold on,
Max.
just so you know, we got Jessica is here. Hello, Jessica. Looking out for Greg. A little bit behind the
She's
scenes
my
here.
emotional support.
All right, Dad, you go first.
All right, come on, let's
Okay,
go.
Charles Lindenberg.
Lindenberg.
is
That's-
Charles Lindenberg?
He made biscuits. I don't know. I was thinking of an aviation guy.
It's Lindbergh.
Oh, Lindbergh, yeah.
Okay, I
close.
have the aquatic Wright brothers.
Negative.
I put Boeing.
Boeing.
Y'all ready?
Okay, that was
John
three.
Deere. That was another
Nope.
one I thought
Go
of.
on.
You were close. Alexander Graham Bell invented the airboat in Nova Scotia in 1909. What it is he loved the Wright brothers' concept of the airplane propeller. He thought it was the greatest invention in the world. Is that what that is?
Well, I said the Wright brothers.
Oh, okay. And so he wanted to modify the blade, the propeller. And well, you can't do it up in the air. So he said, I'm going to put it on a flat bottom boat. And that was the birth of the airboat.
Really?
As a test to test the propeller.
Yes.
Originally, it wasn't
just
even to make an
aviation
airboat.
test.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, he loved the concept of the propeller. He thought that was just the greatest invention. So the same guy who invented the telephone invented the airboat.
Wow. I didn't
Okay,
know
that's
that.
a
I'll
good
never
one.
forget that.
That's a
ever.
good
No,
one.
I won't either.
So have you got another one for us?
Well, did the Wright brothers invent the propeller?
Ooh. Now, you know how they invented the plane was they watched buzzards. They watched buzzards. They watched buzzards, how they kind of flew. And because buzzards, if you watch them, because we have a lot of them down there, it's really fascinating to watch them fly. I do have I got a quick one for you.
Yes.
Just on that note, there's one real fascinating fact about that, is that they didn't actually have film that they could slow down and watch, did they, for when they designed the aircraft? I was on the understanding, so you had to do it all from drawings and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay,
So-
I might be wrong.
The Seminoles are the Native Americans who live in the Everglades today. They're not originally from the Everglades. They were part of the Creek and the Cherokee tribe from southern Alabama and southern Georgia. But basically what happened was we had 3 different Seminole wars that lasted over 30 years. And within that 30-year time frame, they ended up pushing the Seminoles down to the Everglades. What do the Seminoles consider or call themselves today?
Whoa.
It's kind of that's a weird question. But they, because they never surrendered to the U.S. Army. They are the only Native American tribe who have never surrendered to the U.S. Army. Technically, they are still at war with the U.S. Army on paper.
No way.
Really?
Yep.
All right, what'd you get, Max?
At war.
At war, that's a good one.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, I put the Miccosukee.
Well, that is a branch of the Seminoles.
Okay, what'd you put, Nick?
I put Seminoles.
Good one.
What you got, Max?
I put at war. They consider themselves to be at war.
Here's what they call themselves: the unconquered people.
Really?
Yeah, because they're unconquered.
Oh, at FSU, it's literally called the Unconquered Statue.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Is
they
it?
have a big Seminole statue
Yep.
out front. It's called the
Oh,
Unconquered
is it?
Statue.
That's right.
Yep.
They never surrendered.
And they never bothered
The
coming down
Seminoles?
here, did they? Fort Myers was obviously a fort, but they didn't bother going into chasing them into the Everglades.
No, because
did
they stayed down there. They were safe down there. You know, and the thing is, because they used guerrilla tactic warfare. You know, they had dugout canoes where they could get around, and they would attack and they would disappear. You know, and our army back then wasn't used to that. They weren't ready for that kind of warfare.
Right.
And this was pre-Civil War. This was the 1830s. So what happened was when the Civil War started brewing, they had bigger problems to deal with than Florida. So they left. And that's why they're unconquered. They're still there. So.
Wow,
That's cool.
that's incredible.
That is cool.
Good
All
stuff.
right, well, ring the bell, Greg.
You're a winner.
Winner, trivia winner.
Yeah, more than the one.
Come on, ding, 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 ding. Come on, there we
I
go.
get the ring too.
Okay. How did you get the ring as well?
Because we got 2-2.
2-2.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I don't know about that. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Greg. That was very interesting. Make sure you check out Adventures.
Everglades.
Everglades. What?
Everglades Adventure.
Everglades Adventure. And make sure you book Greg up for a tour. As you can tell, he's very knowledgeable about his stuff, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like this content. It will help you get notified whenever we have a new episode coming out. Also, we have a newsletter that goes out every time that we release some content. So if you wanted to sign up for that, go on our website, and there's lots of other information on there. So thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for having me.